All right, so the Joe Biden administration is continuing their assault on the free press and the First Amendment by continuing to try to extradite and prosecute journalist Julian Assange, who, again, just as a reminder, was the founder of WikiLeaks, who helped to reveal many classified documents pertaining to U.S. war crimes in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. And so, of course, the U.S. empire and our institutions, specifically, as we are going to discuss in this video, the CIA, hate him, and they have hated him for a long time. And we now have some pretty explosive new information on exactly the extent to which the CIA was willing to go to keep somebody like Julian Assange silent. So, Trump's CIA considered kidnapping or assassinating Julian Assange. Report. Okay, just a reminder, okay, this is a journalist that we are talking about, okay? This is an Australian journalist who did nothing but take information that leakers like Chelsea Manning helped him to obtain, and then publishing that information for the American people and the rest of the world to see, okay? This is information that is pertinent to the knowledge of the American people and how we are supposed to be able to participate and hold our government accountable for what they are doing and representing us, right? If U.S. tax dollars, your tax dollars, are going towards committing war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq, then this is something that the American people deserve to know, okay? And so it is in the best interest of the American public that these things be published. And so, again, he is an absolute hero for doing that. But understand, the CIA, okay, the intelligence wing of the U.S. military, of the U.S. Empire, if you want to call it that, was willing to assassinate, okay, kidnap or assassinate this journalist for simply revealing their crimes. So let's look at some of the details here, because it even gets crazier the more you look into it. So under the leadership of then Director Mike Pompeo, the CIA in 2017 reportedly plotted to kidnap and discussed plans to assassinate WikiLeaks founder and publisher Julian Assange, who is currently imprisoned in London as he fights the Biden administration's efforts to extradite him to the United States. And citing conversations with more than 30 former U.S. officials, Yahoo News reported Sunday that, quote, discussions over kidnapping or killing Assange occurred at the highest levels of the Trump administration. So you would think that at least is implicating Trump to some extent and Mike Pompeo as well as the head of the CIA. And here's some more of the details. So according to Yahoo, the conversations were part of an unprecedented CIA campaign directed against WikiLeaks and its founder. The agency's multi-pronged plans also included extensive spying on WikiLeaks associates, sowing discord among the group's members, and stealing their electronic devices. And while Assange had been on the radar of U.S. intelligence agencies for years, these plans for an all-out war against him were sparked by WikiLeaks' ongoing publication of extraordinarily sensitive CIA hacking tools known collectively as the Vault 7, which the agency ultimately concluded represent the largest data loss in CIA history. And if you want to read about exactly what Vault 7 is, you can go to WikiLeaks. I'll put this down in the description below, and you can read about this, because yes, they get into significant details about the CIA's hacking programs and how they have used this to not only intrude on the rights of American citizens, the constitutionally protected rights of the American citizens, just as the NSA breached those rights, as well as we learned from Edward Snowden in the NSA leaks. They have these hacking programs that they are using all over the world against people who don't deserve it, right? It's not as if they are using these hacking tools to go after, ISIS-K or anything like that. As we've seen from the U.S. military and our intelligence officials, they are perfectly willing to say, we're just going after the terrorists, and then they turn around and they use it on politicians, or they use it on journalists, and they use it on anybody who is willing to stand against them in any way, shape, or form. So if you want to learn more about Vault 7 and why the CIA would be so embarrassed by this information being leaked, then go ahead and read that below. But continuing on here, President Trump's newly installed CIA director Mike Pompeo was seeking revenge on WikiLeaks and Assange, who had sought refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy since 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden on rape allegations that he denied. And Pompeo and other top agency leaders, quote, were completely detached from reality because they were so embarrassed about the Vault 7 leaks, said former Trump national security official. They were seeing blood. Okay, so understand again the dynamic. We have a journalist who has a journalistic publication in which they are leaking some of this information that is pertinent for the American people to know, right, as part of maintaining some sort of a democratic process where we are able to hold our officials and our institutions accountable. And you have a journalist who is publishing these documents, and the CIA, who was supposed to be the beacon, right? The beacon of freedom around the world. They are going around. We have all of these agencies that are supposed to uphold Western freedom, right? The U.S. democracy, right? And what are they actually doing? They are targeting a journalist who dares to expose their crimes that they have committed, right? Expose the intrusions on American privacy that they are committing right now, okay? This is who they are choosing to target, all right? And so they continue. saying that Yahoo's reporting makes it clear that Assange is not the only journalist that the U.S. officials have attempted to target in recent years. And during the Obama presidency, according to Yahoo, quote, top intelligence officials lobbied the White House to redefine WikiLeaks. So this is how they basically were trying to then go after with the CIA and not even bothering to pretend to do any judicial process and simply sending CIA agents or anyone else to go and kidnap or assassinate him. So basically, they were trying to redefine WikiLeaks and some high-profile journalists as information brokers, which would have opened up the use of more investigative tools against them, potentially paving the way for their prosecution. And quote, among the journalists some U.S. officials wanted to designate as information brokers were Glenn Greenwald, then columnist for The Guardian, and Laura Poitras, a documentary filmmaker who had both been instrumental in the publishing of documents provided by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, who again is still living in exile for the crime of exposing the fact that the NSA was basically against the constitutionally Fourth Amendment protected rights of the American people, was spying, doing widespread surveillance on the American people. So that's what Edward Snowden revealed, and these are the types of people who helped him to publish that information to the benefit of the American people. This is who they choose to target, okay? This is who they choose to try to redefine not as journalists, but instead as information brokers, so it can be easier for them to go and target and silence them. And they continue saying that in a statement to Yahoo, Poitras called the intelligence officials' efforts bone-chilling and a threat to journalists worldwide. And just to give you a little bit more context here, as a refresher, the Trump Justice Department charged Assange with 17 counts of violating the Espionage Act for publishing classified documents, something journalists do often. And despite urgent pleas from press freedom advocates, the Biden administration has refused to drop the charges and continued its predecessor's attempt to extradite the WikiLeaks founder. So this is pretty important because Biden is actually taking a different approach slightly than what the Obama administration was initially trying to do. And the problem that they've had this entire time is if you are going to try to charge, you're going to extradite Julian Assange and charge him under the Espionage Act, then what you are effectively saying is every single U.S. journalist right now, every single national security journalist that is doing reporting on the CIA, on the U.S. military, on the war crimes that they have committed or potentially committed, then all of these journalists could then be charged with the exact same guidelines that they charged Julian Assange with. So that's the problem, is this isn't just a slippery slope argument where if you target Julian Assange, then, maybe sometime down the road they'll target other people. This is just, you're walking straight off the cliff because you're setting a precedent that any journalist who dares to publish something that the U.S. empire decides is classified or that would be embarrassing to them, that then they can target you not just with legal prosecution via the Espionage Act, but also potentially with kidnapping or assassinating you. So that's the precedent that the Trump administration was trying to set with these new CIA revelations, to the extent to which they were willing to kidnap and assassinate him. But in addition, it's also what the Biden administration is continuing to try to do by continuing to try to prosecute him and have him extradited for violating the Espionage Act, okay? It would treat a journalist as if they are a foreign spy. Okay, so anyone who threatens to do anything that could be perceived as detrimental to the reputation of the U.S. empire could then be seen as a spy who's working for some foreign government and trying to sabotage the U.S. So it would basically completely dismantle any semblance or facade that we still have of an independent and free press if Julian Assange is to be prosecuted. And so obviously Joe Biden needs to not only drop the charges but pardon Julian Assange, pardon Edward Snowden, and pay them reparations, because they have essentially tortured this man for years and years and years with the conditions that he has been facing in the Ecuadorian embassy in Belmarsh prison, and the conditions which he would be facing if he was going to actually be extradited here to the United States. If you remember, while the U.S. is undergoing this appeals process, the Biden administration undergoing this appeals process to try to get him extradited to the United States, remember, one of the last rulings that judge gave in the UK when they said that the U.S. could not extradite Julian Assange was they said U.S. prison conditions would be so terrible, and Julian Assange, if he were to be extradited and imprisoned in the United States, would be so thoroughly beaten down by the U.S. prison system and the place that they were going to be sending him in these maximum security prisons, which are supposed to be for the most dangerous members of society, and you would be sending a journalist there, that the conditions would be so barbaric and horrific that they could not have him extradited because his life would be in jeopardy. Okay, that's what the judge in the UK said. All right, so understand, if Julian Assange is to be extradited to the United States, there's no chance that he would get a fair shake. That's very obvious if the fucking CIA was planning to kidnap and assassinate this person. You really think that if the national security state here in the United States is willing to go to those lengths, that they are going to give him a fair trial? It's a complete fucking joke, but it's been a joke for a while now. Again, just a reminder, we had this information come out months ago now. key witness in the Assange case admits to lies in an indictment. A major witness in the U.S. Department of Justice case against Julian Assange has admitted to fabricating accusations in the indictment against the WikiLeaks founder. This was the main witness that they were using in the case against Julian Assange, and he admitted to just fucking lying about the entire thing. And they're still trying to bring this case. And why? Well, they're still trying to bring this case against Julian Assange because it's very obvious that if they allow Julian Assange to walk free, right, and continue the work that WikiLeaks has been doing for years and years and years now, then it sets the precedent that, yes, you can publish documents that are detrimental to the reputation of the U.S. empire if they are in the best interest of the American people. That's how a free press is supposed to work, okay? What does this tell you about the dynamics that we actually have here in the United States? We don't have a free press, not just in the sense that a lot of our press outlets are captured by corporate interests and by the profit motive, but we also don't have a free press if our fucking government and the CIA are just going to go and try to kidnap and assassinate any journalist who threatens to publish sensitive information that may be embarrassing to them. So that's the situation that we have right now. There's absolutely no excuse top to bottom. This is an entirely fraudulent case that they are bringing against Julian Assange. He is a hero. He is the epitome of journalism. And if Biden even wants to have any legacy at all, then he will drop these charges immediately.